So one of the other topics that is very important is SSL. Until almost 2 years ago, this wasn't a very popular topic or a hot topic, unless you were a financial institution or a healthcare provider. Uh, this topic was not in your interest. But after that, like given the changes that Google made, especially, and the way that the other things played, make this topic, SSL topic, is very important topic. I will talk about it, why this became to this point, and then I also will talk about the actual SSL. So SSL is means secure socket layer. It's a layer of security that prevents the man in the middle attack. Or so, what is mean? What does it mean, and what is SSL mean in general? Uh, so let's say, uh, think about like old phone lines. Uh, when there are when a person talks to other side of the phone, um, a third party person or man in the middle could come and just connect another headset or headphone and listens to the conversation without any problem. Um, that's the same idea here. So the third person that was listening to conversation, like the other two parties could talk about many important things, like maybe the person was buying a new thing, a new merchandise over the phone, and it was giving out his credit card information and his address. Now the third person that was listening could easily steal this information and go and buy stuff with the victim's credit card information. Now the same idea is happening here. If we have a if you have a client computer that connects to the web server, if there is no secure SSL, there can be a man in the middle attack that basically can hijack the connection and get all the information. This way, um, the man in the middle or the attacker can go and steal person's information. So to prevent that, uh, many websites to these days are using uh, um, another layer of security called SSL, or secure socket layer. So this layer will basically makes connection between the server and the victim. Sorry, a client. And what happens is now, if man in the middle tries to listen to the conversation between the server and client, the only thing that it hears is a gibberish. It doesn't know what it means. It cannot understand it, and it cannot do anything with them. Uh, to give you an idea, I will tell you a little bit story about Enigma. So if you did not watch Imitation Game, I would highly suggest that you watch it. It's a very good game, generally speaking, about computers and how computers become to be something like this, and then how we win World War II. So the key to winning was the Enigma. Enigma was a machine that Germans were using to send messages to their to their command post. So all this, like everyone else could hear those messages. There was nothing secret about those messages. But although they could hear it, they could not understand it. Um Everything was in gibberish. It wasn't making any sort of sense. So England were reading those messages, but they couldn't understand it. So England was like a man in the middle attack in our case. Until they final, and then it's the same idea here. So this SSL and the way that it works is actually very, uh, very complex mathematical problem how this client creates a connection with this web server. This is a very complicated and complex problem. But to give you an idea, I will give you a nitpick on this thing. So right now I'm in a presentation mode in my PowerPoint Google Docs. I want to show you one thing. Let's this is actually, I think let's do it. So if I go to the security tab, you see it says this page is secure, valid HTTP. So valid HTTPS means this page has an SSL. Now, let's look at the connection, the certification, right? It says this is a like a valid certificate, and basically it's shoes to Google, and this is the certified agency. So the way that it works is there are limited number of certification agencies that can issue those certificates. Think about like a driver license. In order for you to get a driver license, you have to go to DMV. DMV is the organization that the only organization that can issue you a driver license. Or more general, think about the credit card. There are certain banks that can issue you a credit card. You cannot just go and get a credit card. So it's the same idea here. There are a certain number of companies that can issue an SSL certificate. So the way that the browser works is that there is two keys, generally speaking. There is a public key and a private key. Private key will stays on the server, and the public key is the way that each client authenticates to the server, and it says and make sure that it's an actual server. So these issuers will give these keys, these two keys, basically to the servers, and the servers give them to the clients. And with this public key and private key, they will be able to create a secure connection. So, and each browser can make sure that his public key, the public key that it's using, is valid by going to this issuer's organization and ask for it. They can verify it for it. There is a lot more into that. I do not want to go into more details, but just to let you know, there are different type of keys, the different length of keys think about that you can use. Generally in these days they are 256 bits, like this one. This is like value, but the way that client and server create a secure connection is through that public key and private key.